It pains me that I'm making this video right now. Physically, I have this awkward, uncomfortable feeling, and I'll try to explain why. For as long as I can remember, and I mean that literally as far back as my memories go, I've been a huge fan of Kanye West. If you're a fan of this channel, you probably already know that. I've made at least 5 videos specifically about him, and then I've talked about him in a bunch of videos where he isn't the main focus too. When I listed out 200 of my favorite songs of all time, I made a rule for those videos where I only wanted to do one song per musician, otherwise Kanye would dominate each list. Well, my subconscious managed to sneak him in more than a couple times per list anyway. On a video where I was trying to talk about 100 different musicians, I was saying, oh well, The Throne doesn't really count as just Kanye, and Kids See Ghosts doesn't really count as Kanye, and let me throw in this song where Kanye is predominantly featured because there's no way that that counts either. And in my top 10 favorite albums list, guess who we had sitting at number 1? The point I'm trying to make is clear, you get it. For years upon years, I've loved Kanye West, but I'm making this video because at this point in time, the thrill is gone for me. And when I say that, I don't mean I've changed my mind about his discography. All of these albums are still among my favorites of all time, and I love them, and I listen to them frequently. But just about ever since The Life of Pablo came out, it's been different. When Ye came out, I was in shock about how much I disliked that record. Every single Kanye album before that, I loved unconditionally. Even the ones that I knew weren't perfect and that I may have had problems with, like The Life of Pablo and Watch the Throne, if you count that. And honestly, Graduation has a couple of songs that I'm not obsessed with. Even those felt like 10 out of 10s to me. I think that those are great albums, but then because they were Kanye and Kanye was my favorite artist ever, I definitely had a bias going towards them too. Anything that I liked that had Kanye's name on it, I would probably hype that thing up way more than I would if it was anybody else. But when it came to Ye, and I was seeing just as many cons as I was seeing pros, it kind of had the opposite effect. The dislikes felt stronger and more dramatic because, like, how could it be, you know? In more than a decade of me obsessing over everything this guy did, it was baffling that he made a dud. From my perspective, all of Kanye's albums had always oozed with so much creativity and passion, and Ye felt uninspired. It was stale, the energy wasn't there. The whole album seemed rushed, the production, which is obviously Kanye's strong suit, even the production seemed cheap. And with the whole vibe of the album being off, there were small things that started sticking out like a sore thumb. Before Ye, when Kanye would drop a goofy, ridiculous lyric, I would laugh it off and think, wow, this guy is so confident, he doesn't care at all, that's funny, that's awesome. But when I heard I Called Up the Muslims, said I'm about to go dumb, I thought to myself, This is what I've been waiting for? This is what I've been so excited for? Of course, it wasn't all bad. Ghost Town was super anthemic, Yikes was a good little new age Kanye banger, and Violent Crimes is one of his most personal, touching songs ever. If I'm trying to take that bias away for a second, I like about half the songs on the album and dislike the other half, which would typically mean that I'm indifferent to it, but because it's Kanye and the dislike ratio was pretty high, that project felt sacrilegious or something. And speaking of sacrilegious, let's talk about Jesus is King. I'll come right out of the gate and say that I have pretty similar feelings about this one. There's stuff that I like, but there's a lot to dislike too, which after 2 solo albums in a row, that's what has me asking the titular question of, did Kanye fall off? My main problem with Jesus is King is this, and this is something that may sound pretty insensitive, and I apologize in advance, and I'll clarify this statement in a second, but throughout its runtime, I never really got the impression that Kanye actually cares about the subject matter at hand. That is to say that I never really bought the idea that Kanye loves Jesus and loves religion as much as he says he does, over and over again, all throughout this project. And it sounds very mean to question somebody's faith, and I'm not trying to question his faith in real life. I'm more so questioning that his faith actually transferred into these songs whatsoever. For example, I don't love Chance the Rapper, we've discussed that before. I think Coloring Book is a solid but pretty corny album, but I hear his passion for religion within many of those songs. There's never been a time that I've been listening to Chance and I've wondered, I don't know if this dude actually likes God as much as he says he does. That's a thought that has never crossed my mind once. For further examples, even though I don't really like their music, see guys like Lecrae and NF. But throughout Jesus is King, Kanye's faith played out to me like somebody praising a movie that they haven't seen. Like somebody doing a book report when they read all the Spark Notes the night before. Like somebody telling me about a band after reading their Wikipedia page. I know I'm not one to talk about passionate deliveries because my natural speaking voice is the most monotone thing in the world, but I keep listening to this album and I just don't hear the passion. And when all the references in the lyrics are so surface level, and I'm not even religious, and yes, I'm calling them surface level, the lack of passion and these basic lyrics combine for a listening experience that is strange and a little unnerving. Kanye obviously does not need to prove his faith to me. I'm a nobody music reviewer on YouTube, I'm just venting here. It's concerning to me that especially after I started losing my faith in Kanye, he doesn't seem to have any faith in the entire message behind this album. Musically though, I'm generally pretty happy with what goes on here, with the beats and the instrumentals. I like a lot of the gospel / hip-hop stuff that we've been hearing over the last few years, and we get plenty of that kind of thing on Jesus is King. For tracks that I like, I think Every Hour is a good introduction to the album as a whole, and then for tracks that I really love, God Is and Use This Gospel are the big standouts for me. More than any other song on this album, I do hear real emotion from Kanye on God Is, and I think that the instrumental helps complement that idea really well. In a different Kanye era, I could see him using this same singing / rapping delivery over this instrumental, but he would usually be bragging or complaining about something. Pick your poison. And then I mainly love Use This Gospel because of the Clips reunion. On a song asking for another chance and forgiveness, it was really interesting to hear the perspectives of Pusha and Malice. But then I was pretty indifferent to or disliked the rest of the album. I can't hammer this point home enough, but when I don't believe that the person rapping about something as sacred as religion, if I don't believe in the gospels that he's preaching, how am I gonna believe in the album as a whole? And then this is something that I've seen people discussing here and there, so I'm glad I'm not the only one, but doesn't this album's production feel a little weak too? Do the mixes seem a little off? This has mostly been something on my mind since like post-Yeezus times, but I feel like Kanye's production has somehow gotten worse over time. I don't know how it's possible that he's making cheaper sounding albums than the ones he made years ago, but maybe my speakers are bugging out or something. Who knows? To me, it does not seem like a coincidence that I loved all of Kanye's stuff from before, but then I haven't liked his last two albums, and more specifically, I had similar problems with Ye and Jesus is King. In my opinion, both of these albums feel rushed, there's a real lack of inspiration and passion when it comes to the subject matter at hand, and a lot of the technical stuff sounds weaker than what we've heard from him before. And with that, I ask this question to all of you, and remember that this is coming from a guy who would love nothing more than to keep talking about how great Kanye is, and someone who is genuinely upset that he has to make this video right now. Did Kanye fall off? Did he lose some of his creative spark? Are his last two albums weaker than the rest? Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you for watching. Hey, thank you for watching that video. I really hope this album grows on me. I genuinely hope the best for Kanye going forward, but it just doesn't seem good right now. If you want to support the channel, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. You can follow me on social media at RentshawHS. You can buy my merch, support my Patreon, and thank you again. I'll see you soon.